This time I'd like to call the Board of Alderman meeting to order for the city of Warrenton for May 1, 2012. Usually we start our meetings off with a pledge of allegiance, and I've asked Alderman Clark to lead us today.
I'll stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 on the agenda is open session minutes from April 17, 2012. Any discussion or concerns? I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Kendall, seconded by Alderman Clark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion passed 6-0. Item 4, approval of the work session minutes from April 11, 2012 on Board of Alderman orientation. Any discussion or concerns there?
I'll make a motion to approve the work session minutes for April 11th, 2012 on the Board of Alderman orientation.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Flake, seconded by Alderman Dreyer to approve the work session minutes from April 11, 2012 on Board of Alderman orientation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion carried 6-0. Item 5 is approval of the work session minutes from April 24, 2012 on discussion with the Greater Warrenton County Economic Development Council in regards to membership.
Mayor, there's a correction need to be made. I was not present at that meeting.
Pardon me, you was not?
I was absent.
Do we have you?
You have me listed as opposed to
Okay.
there and absent.
So we need to correct that. Okay.
Later on, it says Alderman Clark and Dreyer were absent.
Okay. All right, so we'll make that correction then.
Make a motion we approve the work session minutes from April 24th, 2012 on the discussion with the GWC-DC in regards of membership with the correction omitting Alderman Clark.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the work session minutes from April 24, 2012 on discussion with the Greater Warrenton County Economic Development Council in regards to membership with an amended correction that Alderman Clark was not present. That was seconded by Alderman Cornell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion carried 6-0. At this time, we usually give the public a chance to address the board. We ask that your comments be civil, that you come forward and state your name at the podium, and we allow you 5 minutes of discussion time. So if there's anybody here that would like to speak, please do so at this time. Not having anyone come forward, we will move on to the next item, and that's to give the Board of Aldermen the same opportunity. If they have something they want to speak or say, we'll let them do that at this time. Hearing nothing from the Board of Aldermen, and we're going to move on. Next item on the agenda is the mayor's report to the board. The first item I have on there is I need to fill a vacancy on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm requesting that we appoint Ronald Dickey to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a 4-year term. I've known Ron for ever since he's been in town. Probably moved here in 2004. Ron came down from Michigan. He's got experience serving on planning and zoning boards, and actually, if I'm correct on this, 2 different cities. Am I correct, Ron?
Just one.
Just one, okay. I'm stretching you a little bit. I'm trying to help you out there. So Ron, would you stand up and say hi to everybody? I'd like to present Ron Dickey to you, and I think he'll be a valuable asset to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you,
Mayor,
Ron.
I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve my community.
You're certainly welcome. I don't guess we really don't need a motion to appoint him. Am I correct on that?
It should be with the consent, the advice and consent of the board.
Consent of the board?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your appointment, board's consent.
Okay, so we would ask the board for approval on that. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed likewise.
No.
We got, 5 yeses, 1 no. Am I reading that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, next, since I've got the floor here for a minute, I want to talk about a couple things. I've been busy since I assumed my role as mayor, busier than I anticipated I was going to be, putting in a lot of time trying to bring myself up to speed, find out what everybody's doing within the city. I've had an opportunity to meet with each department head. I think with the exception of the recreation department, we had I think Jenny was out a couple of days when we scheduled for a sickness. I appreciate their time and insight in helping me get up to speed. I found the staff to be very dedicated and very loyal. I appreciate you all taking the time to help me out and get me up to speed. The other meeting I had was with I had an opportunity to meet with the mayor of Truesdale, just a short social meeting. We kind of discussed some issues that was going on in his community and things in my community. I think we'll have a good working relationship, and my intention is to work together with the surrounding communities to maintain that relationship. Had another meeting with the postmaster, and I think we're going to address this as an agenda item later on at another meeting. Basically, our discussion was the lease of the lot that the city owns next door. So we'll talk about that later. My other meeting was with the county commissioners, more of a social impromptu meeting. Stopped in one day to say hi, and we wound up staying for an hour. I thought we had a good, positive meeting with them. We talked over some old issues that the county had, and maybe some issues the city had with the county. And we kind of came to an agreement that we need to work together in the future and make decisions that will benefit everyone concerned for both communities. One more issue I want to address, and that's I fielded several questions from the community, and these comments are not necessarily the comments of the board. They're more comments from the mayor, my personal comments. But the questions I've had is regarding the sales tax issue that failed here on on April 3rd. And the questions that I fielded from the community were what are we going to do with that issue? And I know as a board we haven't had a chance to discuss that. My feeling on this is that we've heard from the voters for the second time that they're not ready for us to get into a complex of this type. They've told us this twice now. And so my recommendation is that we put this on the back shelf or the top shelf until such time we have a tax base that is large enough to support a building issue of this type. I think we need to keep it on the back shelf until such time our population has increased that we can afford to build such a structure as this. We need to leave it on the shelf until the voters tell us they are ready to review this project again. One of my major concerns is the amount of money that we spent as a city promoting this issue. I think we probably owe the voters and the taxpayers an apology for the amount of money we did spend trying to promote this issue. So, one other issue I had a rumor that approached me, and I mentioned it to a couple people, and the rumor floating around town was that I was getting a new car that was going to be furnished by the city. I was excited, and I'm looking for that car. But the problem is, nobody seems to know anything about it except the rumor. So my point is, if somebody knows where my car is, would you tell me so I can get started? Otherwise, I'm just going to consider that to be a rumor. That's all I have. Like I say, I've been busy, and it's been very interesting up to this point. We're going to move on with the next item on the agenda is appointments to board committees. I think everybody's got those in their packet. I don't know if I can find mine. There we go. Here we go. I had them earlier. My first appointment is the Ways and Means Committee. I've appointed Chairman Alderman Beth Kendall, member Alderman John Clark, member Alderman John Cornell to that committee. Do we want to do these one at a time, or can we I mean, do they need a...
I don't know how much discussion you're going to have. I mean, if they're going to be accepted by the board, you can do them all at the same time, but I don't know if there's going to be much discussion on them.
I guess my question to the board, is there any discussion on any of these chairmans and any of the members of each committee? If there's no discussion, then I'll entertain a motion that we accept approval to the, well, actually, I'm going to go down through all of them. Police and Personnel, Alderman John Cornell, Chairman, Alderman Fred Flake, member, Alderman Phil Tallow, member. Water, Sewer, and Trash Committee, Chairman Alderman Jim Dreyer, Alderman Fred Flake, Alderman Beth Kendall as members. Street, Sidewalks, Street Lights, I appointed Alderman John Clark as chairman, Alderman Jim Dreyer, and Alderman Phil Tallow as members. Recreation Department, Chairman Phil Tallow, Alderman Beth Kendall, Alderman John Clark as members. City Grounds and Cemetery, Alderman Fred Flake as chairman, Alderman Jim Dreyer as member, Alderman John Cornell. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve the committee appointments by Alderman Tallow, seconded by Alderman Clark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, likewise. Motion carried 6-0. My other appointments is representative to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I've recommended that we appoint Alderman Phil Tallow to that committee. Representative to the Park Board, Alderman John Cornell. Representative to the IDA, Alderman John Clark. Representative to the Tourism Committee, Alderman Fred Flake. I would take a motion or entertain a motion to approve those appointments.
So move.
Second.
Approved by Alderman Clark, seconded by Alderman Cornell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Carried 6-0. Next item on the agenda is executive session on the agenda. I might mention that I requested this item be added to the agenda, and I might explain to you why I wanted to add that and discuss this. One of my concerns is remaining transparent to the public, transparent to the community, and I think when we put the executive session due to personnel and real estate, so forth, on our agenda, it gives, or to me, it gives an impression that we have something to discuss. When we don't have anything to discuss, my recommendation is to take it off the agenda and not lead the public to the perception that we are going to do something or have something to discuss behind closed doors. I don't know if any of that makes any sense to you or not. I've talked to Councilor Gravel about it, and I might ask you for your comments from the Attorney General's point of view on that.
Attorney General states as a best practice that the executive session notice not be placed on an agenda as an agenda item unless there is an intent to have an executive session for that particular issue. That being said, that's the recommended best practice, and the practice of the city has always been to have it on every agenda, regardless of if there's a plan to have one there or not in case a situation comes up. When I spoke to the mayor earlier on it, I said, that's what I think the Attorney General, they have not issued an opinion on it, but would prefer as the practice for cities to be.
So we don't have to let the public know prior to, how are we going to?
What you would do, the intention from the Attorney General, and I'm going to be paraphrasing from what the last seminar I went to last year from him, was that you post only what you know you're going to have, that you don't kind of do a cover all thing. The intent being that you post, if you have real estate, for example, you post only real estate, because you know 24 hours in advance that you're going to have an executive session real estate matter on. The idea being that, if you post all the potential executive session issues or executive session material or topics, that you really are not posting an accurate agenda because you don't have an intention to go through all those topics. Now, a lot of the cities, this is the practice. That's the Attorney General's recommendation. They haven't issued an Attorney General that I'm aware of order that says this is how it shall be done. That is their recommendation because they feel it's more true to the Chapter 610, the Sunshine Law, to only place on an agenda 24 hours in advance, either litigation or real estate, what you know you're going to have an executive session on. Does that make sense?
I guess. I'm just trying to figure out why for the last 6 years I've been sitting here, we've been doing it.
It's been that way for 16 years. It's been the practice. The first time I heard the Attorney General give that opinion was last year. There's nothing wrong with doing it that way. It's just the way that the city has always done it. And I think it's really a matter of preference as far as how you guys want to do it. It's the way we've always done it, but it's a matter of preference on how you want to do it.
I think by putting it on there, and I know I've served on other boards where we had executive session, and it was a way out type thing for us, that something popped up the last minute, but I can't imagine what would pop up if we couldn't do 2 weeks later or have a special meeting 3 days later. You see where I'm going with that? I just want to be more transparent with everything we do as a board.
And sometimes we have personnel issues and that pop up quick, and waiting 2 weeks would be too long. We have to address the issue rather quick, and I think it should be, all three should be on there at every meeting. That's just my feeling.
So Mayor, you're saying that if something came up in that example by Alderman Flake, we would call a special?
We could, sure.
That's what you're saying.
I personally can't imagine a personnel issue that would pop up that couldn't be dealt with in 2 weeks or 3 days. We might think we're important, and we might think some of these department heads are important, but all of us are replaceable. I always tell the story about whenever we think we're so important that we can't be replaced, just stick your finger in a glass of water and yank it out and see how fast that hole fills up. That's how important we are. All of us can be replaced. So I don't know, I'm not buying into that deal that, because we've done something one way in the last 10 years, doesn't mean it was right. Let's try something new. If it's not right and it's not working for us, we can go back that way.
I guess I'm having a hard time understanding that it wasn't working.
Yeah, I am too.
You don't understand the perception that we're doing things behind closed doors that maybe weren't following the letter of the law, the personnel or.
Well, our attorney is sitting in every meeting, so I would hope that he would not lead us down the wrong road. He is in every executive session meeting.
No, but the issue is, the Attorney General issues, they are the administrator of Chapter 610 by statute. They issue opinions, formal and informal opinions. They basically have said, we think that's not a good practice, kind of like the auditors. When we get an audit, they say, this is something you do, this is something you don't do. And quite honestly, after we have the issue with the one executive session, we typically don't have stuff that comes on all that last minute. It's not something that it's like coming on, immediately. And I think you can see both perspectives. it is a significant advantage to the city because you meet the notice requirement, and if something does come up, you do avoid a special meeting, and you guys do have a lot of meetings, number one, on one side. On the other side, I mean, I understand what the Attorney General's informal opinion of it is that, well, you're giving 24-hour notice of something that is or may not be an issue, you know? So I don't think there's, basically what I'm saying is, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think it's a matter of public perception or, you know, practice vis-a-vis each other, and I don't think it's something that's really, you know, game-changing for how the city operates one way or another. If you leave it on the agenda, and it's on the agenda, it's the way it's always been done, which is the practice, and it's perfectly legal, or if you take it off the agenda and you only post it when you know we're going to have executive session stuff, it's perfectly legal as well. I think it's a matter of opinion and perspective, and believe me, I could march probably 20 different municipal attorneys in here, and they tell you what is the better practice and what's the better way to do it, and give you different opinions every time. It's just, I think it's not a significant change in how we operate or what we're doing, and it's not that we've ever done anything illegal in any way, shape, or form. The one time we did it, that was my fault, and I took full credit for not having it posted correctly. You know, this is just a matter of practice versus trying something different. You know, do you want to keep it the way you've always done it, or do you want to try a different way or a different method of posting an agenda for executive session? There's no right or wrong answer. It's just, you know, something that I think you guys ultimately have to consider how you want to do it, or if you want to do it differently.
Is it possible or proper to hit the middle ground on that if it was decided to leave that on, as we've always done, and add in some type of disclaimer that although those are listed on the agenda, not every meeting will issues be taken up in closed session?
You know, the notice can be altered, you know, as long as it meets the specific requirements and has the ADA language on it. You know, you could take it up, you could include that language in there, or you could just put personnel on every single agenda and take off the other stuff. I mean, it's really a matter of, you know, what you guys want to do or how you want to handle it. I just want to make sure you guys know there is no, in my legal opinion, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just a matter of different practices. It's a matter of an opinion, what it represents or what it doesn't represent. There's practical effects, and then there's, you know, I think observations about it. And that's really for you guys to decide. I just don't think it's something that needs to be, you know, viewed as a negative or anything like that. It's just something that is a practice issue.
How did this come about anyway? Why was this discussion?
I brought this discussion up for what Councilor Gravel said, public perception. There's public perception out there that we're in executive session every meeting on there, which isn't true, but we put it on the agenda, leading them to believe that we're going to be in executive session. And for example, tonight, we have it on the agenda that we're going to be in executive session. We have nothing to talk about in executive session. So my point is, if we have nothing to talk about, then I would like to follow the law more closely to the letter of the law, that if there's nothing to talk about, leave it off. If we are going to be in executive session, let's put it on and be upfront with the people and let the perception be reality there. You follow me?
Yeah, I understand.
Where I'm, and how this came about.
So you were approached, or you were told that? Or is this just your own?
I think it's just my own perception.
Okay.
So.
I personally have never been approached about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably 2, maybe 3 times since I've been sitting here, we've not had executive session.
That you've not had?
98% of the meetings I've been to, we've had executive session.
Interesting.
Something to speak about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Talked to the mayor of Jonesburg the other day. He's been mayor 22 years. You know how many executive sessions they've had in 22 years?
I don't know anything that goes on in Jonesburg.
Jonesburg has never had an executive session in 22 years.
That's true.
And you're telling me we have one almost every week or every meeting?
I would say about 98% of our meetings, we've had executive session.
I was an alderman on 2 different occasions. There was a gap in between where I wasn't an alderman. On my first go-around, we very, very seldom had an executive session. On this last go-around, we have them quite often. But I don't think there's anything we've ever done, for the most part, except for maybe a few very rare occasions, that it wasn't really necessary to have it on there. So I'm a little curious. It probably could last a day or two, but I don't really see, I don't want the public to think that we plan do planning sessions or talk outside the different things by changing it all at once or anything. There's another perception that would make them think, yeah, we were doing something, and I guarantee you we weren't. If anything, our counselor kept us in line most of the time.
Like I said, one time was messed up, I took credit.
But he's not perfect.
Well, and the other thing is, guys, I mean, it's just looking, I mean, I don't see it as really that controversial. It's not questioning whether or not executive session's appropriate, whether or not we do it or not, or whether or not, I think the question just says, the question is ultimately, do you change how the agenda looks for whatever reason, or the mayor's reason, or whatnot, and if it doesn't work or it does work? You can still have an executive session in less than 24 hours if you articulate in your motion why you could not post it within the 24-hour period. So you have to say, we had an emergency personnel situation came up, I'd make a motion to go in executive session because it needs to be immediately addressed. And you could have a situation where you're maybe not giving the public enough written notice of an executive session. I mean, I could find a dozen reasons why it would be a good idea and a dozen reasons why it wouldn't be a good idea. It's just a matter of practice first, practice and perception. I just don't think it's something to really get too, it's not attacking the way we've always done it. And, we do a different review procedure on that since the incident with the paper, when it was pointed out that, with the annexation issue, that, we pretty much know what we're going to go into. Posting, it's not really that difficult. Is that fair, Terry? So.
Well, I could go with it either way. But I did want to make a comment that the sessions that I've gone into, we did not do anything outside our legal boundaries or anything. And sometimes our executive sessions were 5 minutes long, and sometimes they were a couple hours long. But it was something that needed to be passed on.
Well, it's a lot easier having an executive session after the regular meeting because everybody's there, instead of trying to get everybody together on a different day. A lot of people couldn't make it or something like that. But,
That's true. That's true. That's the point.
But like John said, I could go either way, but it seems easier to get everybody together after the meeting since they're already here.
And we always mention on TV what part of the executive session, whether it's litigation, real estate, or personnel, whatever we're going to discuss, that's on TV and it's out to the public. So I don't see where the public should think that there's something underhanded or something going on, because it's broadcast on live TV, and if you watch it, and sometimes we don't have anything, and we say there's nothing. So I think we need the option, is what we need. That's my feeling.
Alderman Tallow, you have a comment on it? You have a feeling one way or the other?
I think we should just leave it the way it is because of various reasons that I've already given. And I got to agree with Alderman Dreyer that we know everybody's going to be at the meeting. If something is there, then we know we're all going to be here. And it is hard to get special meetings, especially within so many days. Everybody's scattered so much. Nobody's ever approached me that they thought we were doing something that wasn't right, or they thought something was going to be on there that wasn't on there. So, my take on it, if it's not broke,
Don't fix it.
don't fix it.
Alderman Kendall, is that?
Absolutely.
Feel the
I
same
say
way?
leave it leave it just like it is.
Okay.
I've never been approached by anyone regarding the executive session. I feel it should stay on there.
Alderman Clark?
Like I said, I'm willing to go either way. I have no problem with it. If we want to try it for a while the other way, we can. We can always switch back.
Alderman Cornell, you're awful quiet.
That's unusual for me.
Unusual.
Trust me, I've got an opinion. You know what, I can certainly see both sides of it. Right now, I am sitting in this chair for my second meeting. I don't know the practicalities of changing it. I would at least at this point defer to the judgment of those that have been seated here before as to how that limit of flexibility would affect the workings of the board. I guess I would have a more logical opinion of it a couple months from now. At this point, it's hard for me to argue with the members that are wanting to keep it the same.
Okay. I think the general consensus is we leave it as it is. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yes, correct.
So, yes,
Is there
sir.
anybody that feels different? Okay, that's fine. And we'll move on to the next item then. Truesdale Connection Resolution. Do you want me to address that, Mrs. Thorne,
If you'd like.
on there? Hang on a minute, let me catch up. I think this, most of this stems from, we'd asked Councilor Gravel to write a letter to Truesdale over a discrepancy in some sewer connection hookups, and I had the opportunity to meet with Mayor Brewer and also with the city clerk in Truesdale, and we think it was more of just an accounting and a reporting issue than it actually was a discrepancy in the number of sewer hookups. So they were able to document the hookups. I think we asked Gabrielle to contact the clerk and see if she could go over those with them. So basically, we decided we'd probably let the two clerks work this out, and I think that issue has been resolved.
They're meeting on Friday.
They're going to meet this
The
Friday.
meeting is scheduled
Okay.
for this Friday.
So I'll keep you posted if something changes on that or something pops back up. But I think that was a simple thing to work out. Anybody have any questions on that that I might not be able to answer? The next item 12, membership with the Greater Warren County Economic Development Council. And I'll open that up for discussion. That's been going on quite some time, and we probably need to bring or have some resolution to decide what we're going to do with that.
Well, the special meeting that we had, work session, we had a few members from the organization, and it was more or less a meeting to bring up to speed the new members of the board. Some were aware of things that have been going on, some weren't, so it's good to have that meeting. I think the consensus, if I'm speaking out of turn, tell me, I think that the majority, if not all, want to join it, but we definitely have to have the portion of the agreement stated that we do need an audit because of the $10,000 they're asking, and that's one of the practices we've always asked. Their concern was that they thought it'd be a pretty price. So we gave them a guideline that we've used for other organizations that we've given money to, and it's just your basic audit. If Mrs. Thorne wants to add something to that, it's just...
It's really just what is called agreed upon audit procedures that equate to looking at internal controls.
Early on, it was stated that it really wasn't in the budget to join them this year, so that was our stand. Not that we weren't interested, it's just that we had financial restraints as far as what they were asking because our budget was already made. Mrs. Thorne can elaborate on possibly having some extra money now to join that.
Well, what we looked at was dollars in economic development department that had been set aside for another project. And what we discovered is that that project has not moved along as quickly as we thought. So there are dollars that will be remaining in the current budget, that if the board would choose to reallocate to this project, we could then refund those dollars in the following year's budget for the original project. So I think by reallocating and moving things around, if you all desire to go ahead and do that, you certainly could reallocate those dollars.
So would anyone else like to give me their thoughts on what they thought of the meeting or what they thought we should do?
Have we received any information back concerning the audit? That seemed to be a touchy point the other night. Have we heard from that organization concerning the audit, whether they agree with it or what they've decided?
I've not heard anything either.
I have not, and I know Josh is actually out of town. He is on his honeymoon.
Well, I think if I understand, if we decide to do it, well, that'll be part of the component. That component will be part of our agreement with them, and then we submit it to them, and then it's up to them whether they want to agree to it or not, correct?
That was the feeling I took from
Yeah,
it.
that's
That's what
right.
I thought they felt was
Right.
going to be. Ms. Thorne, I asked, I believe it was late last week, did you ever have a chance to check with the auditor as to the fact that this is not necessarily the city giving money to an organization as opposed to we're going to be members of this organization? Does that change the requirement for?
The membership status versus, like the WDA as an example, does not change the requirement, and they would not give an opinion not knowing this entity on whether, you know, they could preclude them or not. Typical auditor speak.
Understood. But I did think it was worth at least exploring. And I expressed at that meeting, one of my concerns is a sense of fairness between, I understand the requirement for this audit. I understand that our auditor requires that. I also understand that as an entity joining this, the request for $10,000, as opposed to Wright City's $10,000 fee, we're earmarking a certain portion of that is going to have to be spent towards this audit. And I do believe that all agencies that are involved in that will get the benefit of that audit, but that was at least one of my concerns of, is our $10,000 truly a $10,000 membership fee if we're telling them how we feel portions of it need to be spent. That being said, I absolutely believe that we have to adhere to the policy that we've had all along. But I do feel that it is a worthwhile investment to join that group. I think the risk to reward for the $10,000 investment is worthwhile.
I would also like to propose that, is Michelle now going to be one of the board members of the, what will her title be in that, and will she be participating in the meetings?
I don't know that we know what that title is or how that works. Do we have enough information?
Their group of, are they board members?
Yes.
Or, I mean,
Yeah, we would have a representative as one of the board members, if I understood it right,
Yes,
correct?
for our $10,000 fee, we would have a representative who would be a board member.
One of the things that we need to be aware of, that the present board on the Greater Economic Development Council, they have to approve that board member. So we really need to be somewhat cautious that if we decide we're going to appoint, well, it can't be an elected official, first of all, but let's say we're going to appoint somebody like Tim Schmidt, they might not approve that person. So we want to be cautious about that up front. If we make a commitment to somebody, what if they don't approve that person?
Well, I mean-
I would think we would need to press that that's one of our stipulations. We were requiring an audit, and we would prefer that Michelle attend the meetings. To me, that's a red flag if they don't want her at the meetings,
No, I'm not saying,
or they disapprove of her being at the meeting, or being a member.
no, I'm saying it could be anybody. That if we're going to appoint somebody, we need to have some sort of consensus with them that, are you all going to accept this person as a member of your board?
Well, it's an economic development board, and she's an economic developer, so I think that's that's a moot point, but,
Okay.
you know, when you, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I personally think it's a moot point, but you never know.
I would, I don't know that it's necessarily a moot point. Who was appointed for that seat, I think, is a whole nother discussion beyond this. But I never heard mention or saw any bylaws about the representative not being an elected official. I wasn't aware of any limitations of who was selected to be placed on that board, and that would be concerning to me of if we are the people joining and providing the funding, the status, whether it's an employee or an elected official of the city, is no different than us telling a private company that they can't have their chief operating officer as it just doesn't make sense for us to be a equal board member, but be told who we can appoint to that board. And I wasn't aware of that in the meeting. That wasn't a question that came up and not something that I anticipated.
And I don't want to put Mr. Ledbetter on the spot. Are you following where we're going with this? Would you want to comment on that as a board member?
I think you just did put me on.
Well, if you don't mind sharing, so I'm not misleading these people.
You know.
You want to come up to the podium? Jim?
Yes.
What are you hiding back there in the corner for? Why are you not sitting up here? I didn't even see you back there.
It's very comfortable.
This is Jim Ledbetter, and he's a member of the Warren County Greater Economic Development Council.
I am. All of the elected official part of it came about, and it's came about through conversations with other economic development councils and not having a previous agenda of the community, and that the community itself would supply a person to be on the board that really is a very objective position outside of being an elected official. Now, I will tell you that Wright City chose Karen Girondo, who is their current economic development coordinator. So from a standpoint of your decision on who you choose to sit on the board, that is your decision. And if you wanted your economic development coordinator, since Michelle's been involved since the beginning, I mean, you were what, on all of the public meetings?
For most of them, I believe I missed one.
Yeah, one meeting on everything that had to do with the bylaws, everything that was set up from the beginning. We did that so we would have total transparency, and Michelle's been involved since the beginning, and I would assume that, you know, from that, you do have a copy of the bylaws or what we've talked about so far?
I do have what Josh has handed out at the meetings.
You do have all that? Great. So you'll have that. And from the beginning, we tried to keep it totally transparent, and we want it to be a very objective group, so that when these ideas and things come in, we'll have people that have expertise as well to share. So anybody that is appointed to the board, we would appreciate their expertise in this area. And if you think you have someone that is going to share that with us, certainly we want that. And we want it from a standpoint so that when we have these discussions, because many of these discussions are going to be on the subject of different things that could possibly be coming into our community. But I got to tell you up front that all of the board people do not know who these individual companies are that are looking in our market. The only way that people would know that's on the board if someone contacted Michelle and Michelle took that to Josh. Those two would know, and possibly the president of the board. But that's held in strict confidence for privacy. So we're doing everything we can to keep it totally transparent right up front. So from a standpoint of who you choose to go in, please just utilize your judgment and put someone in that would provide the expertise needed to help us through these trials as we get this going. This is a very important project.
Back to my comment, am I wrong then that your board doesn't have to approve?
We do. The board approves, but so far, from a standpoint of approval, if that's who you send forward, I'm certain that the board would look at it with favor.
Okay, good.
Any other questions at all?
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Well, I think her being the Economic Development Director, I think she would be the one that knows the most about what's going on in that field, and I think it makes sense for her to be the representative to that organization.
Well, I don't think, I kind of agree with Alderman Carnell here. We're kind of jumping ahead of things. We haven't agreed that we're going to participate in that thing. I think once we agree upon that, that might be a whole nother item as to appoint who we're going to have represent the city.
Do we not need to have that in writing?
Just a point of conversation's all it was.
Contract per se, when we approach to them, we require an audit. Yes, we want to do this. We would like Michelle to be on the board. I mean, doesn't that have to all be in writing when we present that to them? I'm looking at both of you over there.
I'll be happy to give an opinion, as I always am. I think the audit, you're conditioning the membership based on, the $10,000. I think they have you sign a contract, correct?
I have not seen that.
Okay, is that right, Jim? There's like some type of agreement?
There is an agreement.
An agreement.
Okay,
yeah.
so, we'll obviously have to, when we receive that, typically every agreement the city approves, I review, which means we wouldn't actually probably sign it till the next meeting. And we would want to, I'm sure, insert some language saying, requirement, and also provide them with the audit standards, because this is not a full-fledged audit, this is a,
Right.
Accounting audit, and give them that to them in advance as well, so they can review that.
We gave them that the other day, so they've had that for a while.
Okay, so yeah, we would have to be presented with the agreement, and if you guys wanted me to review it, I would review it prior. I guess the question tonight is really kind of how we do our, some of our ordinances where you guys vote to approve the expenditure, and then we bring it, it's not actually binding until the agreement would be signed for the membership,
So do we need to voice in our ordinance the person that we so choose to attend these meetings,
You
to
wouldn't
represent the
necessarily need it
city?
in the contract. I don't know how much, it seems like there's some dancing around the issue, so I don't know what really I don't know if you guys are going to bring different appointments to it, but no, you wouldn't include that in the agreement necessarily, because it'd be your appointment.
Jim, can I ask you that question?
What, Bill?
Okay, you said Karen Durando was appointed
By right city.
by Wright City. Okay, was that part of the agreement? Her name, do you know that?
That's who they chose.
But
Yeah,
I'm
I
saying,
don't
was
think
that part of the,
It wouldn't be part of the agreement who you appointed as a
well,
representative,
not part of the agreement, but you said the contract?
or whatever the membership agreement. I'm sure there's some,
Is there a membership agreement over and above the contract, so to speak, for the money, correct? Or membership?
The membership agreement is an agreement between the community
Right.
and the EDC.
Okay.
And then the appointment of the board member and your selection of a board member would be.
Is that done at a different time?
Yeah, y'all do that and send the board member to us, absolutely.
Okay.
They're really two different issues.
Yeah.
there.
That's what I was
it's
trying
however
to
you guys want to address it.
differentiate, because I was a little confused.
I don't think there's a blueprint for it, it's however you guys want to address it. And like I said, the practice of the city has been before is that you have me review the agreement, which I'm sure if you guys have an affirmative vote by the board to give the $10,000, then I'm sure we'll have the agreement presented to you guys at the next board meeting. And I don't know if you guys want to address the issue at that time with regards to the appointment or whatnot. I don't know. But I don't think there's a blueprint that you have to do it one way or the other. I don't think it doesn't sound like it's that formal for the appointment itself, Jim.
It is a formal appointment.
Right, it is a formal appointment, but formal as far as the process you want to know, or there's a review process.
Yeah,
for-
it's not tremendously, because we want to be able to have the person that the community wants there. Obviously, we want that, because that would give confidence
in the board.
Any other comments? Or? I think the issue before us now is, you know, as a city, do we want to participate in that organization? I've looked at it as an outsider. From the very beginning, I kind of stepped back and looked, and I thought this is a win-win situation for everybody. But I wasn't sure why we were hesitant not to participate in it. Since then, I've kind of had the opportunity to attend a workshop, the one in Wright City. I think Michelle and I both were there. I got a better insight into the organization. And then with our workshop here the other night, it even helped me more so. So
you understood our position and what we took originally. Not that we really were against it, it was more or less the financial restraint.
Financial restraint, so it's just a motion. And I still feel it's a win-win situation, that it's something we would benefit greatly from. I think if we don't participate in it, they're going to go on without us. I mean, and I don't blame them, I would go on without us too, but I think we may feel bad and regret it down the road, so.
I would make a motion to authorize the expenditure of $10,000 with the discussed provisions of the audit, an expenditure to join the Greater Warren County Economic Development Council.
I'll second.
Motion by Alderman Cardinal, seconded by Alderman Tallow to join the Warren County Greater Economic Council in the amount of $10,000.
Yes.
And did you have another part of that motion?
Subject to the previously discussed audit and the what have been the traditional requirements of the city to allocate such funds.
Okay. Does everybody understand that motion? So, any further discussion? Anybody want to add or any other concerns? I'm going to ask for a roll call vote on that.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderman Tallow?
Yes.
Alderman Kendall? Yes. Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
And Mayor, if I can, just so it's clear to the public, how we traditionally have done it is then when we get the agreement after the approval, then we'll put an ordinance on, the board authorizing the mayor to sign the agreement next meeting. So it'll actually then, the agreement will become effective with those conditions on it. That's how we've traditionally done it. I just want to make sure.
Understood. I'm on item 13 now, request for abandonment of city easement concerning Ryan and Stephanie Mills.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Mills. We live over on Pershing Drive. We've been homeowners here for the last 6 years. Molly's pull up on the map our house here. We live right here. This is City Street right here. Pershing right around here.
I'm sorry, where did you say you lived? I didn't see.
This house right here.
There, okay, thank you.
House right here. Pershing runs right here. It's kind of this horseshoe shape. I called a year ago to confirm who actually owned the gravel part of our driveway, this right here. Took 2 weeks to find out that the city actually owns that part of our driveway, and so I called again and said, okay, we need some gravel. Can you take care of that? What we got 3 months later was this little corner right here, and that's all we got.
When you say let me ask, when you say 3 months later, what time frame are we?
Last March I called around March 9th, and it took till mid-June to get gravel put down, and it was just maybe for what?
So March of 2011?
So March 11.
2011, yes, a year ago, yes.
And then it took them 3 months to bring the
3 months
gravel?
to bring the gravel, yes. After we found out, yes, it is city easement.
Did anybody come out to
They
meet you?
They called
As
and
a
said they were
representative?
coming out. I don't recall, I talked to someone on the phone, and I don't think I ever actually met physically with someone, but they said, yes, we'll come out and put gravel down. So, you know how home projects are, things get left to the side for a little bit. Waited a year, I called 3 weeks ago, called City Hall again, said, we would either like to have the property just abandoned, given to us, or we would possibly purchase it if the price was right, or please come take care of it and give us some gravel. That's all we're asking for is a little gravel. And I was transferred to Public Works, and they said, we'll take care of it. We'll send someone out. That was 3 weeks ago. I've heard nothing from anyone. So 2 weeks later, I went to the county courthouse to figure out who actually owns it. Is it definitely our property? Got a copy of the subdivision plat. Found out the subdivision to the south of us. Found out the name of the subdivision to the east of us. That piece, this gravel part, just seems to have been kind of left out of the subdivision plans for what's to the south of us. So we have to drive on this gravel to get to the concrete, which we actually own. So our property line runs right here. So we're basically just asking the city to abandon it because it's basically been abandoned for the last however many years.
I don't understand why that's never, is it not,
It doesn't
Have
connect. Our neighbor that lives across the street from us, they lived in Warrenton for many years, and he's actually the one that brought it up to us and said, I think at one point it was supposed to be connected to the street behind us, to Clara, and it never was.
There's a house right in line where,
Right.
and it looks like it's been there a long time.
And when you look at the subdivision plat for the subdivision to the south of us, yeah, this right here, from what the original plat drawings show, this is an actual city lot, and it's not actually connected to city property. So it just dead ends
old house?
at a yard.
I'm having a little bit of trouble.
And don't be surprised, because there's a lot of easements that are minor streets that are like this. And my understanding when we looked at this last year is the city actually never did the original improvement of the gravel to that lot. It was just an easement, which is not, the city owns that property, but it's just, the right-of-way for a roadway, future roadway plan.
Somebody else widened it and
Right.
improved it to park something on it.
I'm sure that's probably
that
what
house was
happened.
built, because that's right behind my mom and dad's place.
Is that Florence Miney's old house?
No.
No,
Yeah, that was, originally
what
was
was
dirt.
their last name? Lily and Jerry, I can't remember their last name.
I'm just
They
trying
lived
to
there for-
figure out where.
Sharp, yes, they lived there for.
so are we responsible for this particular?
Well, I mean, not for improvements as a driveway per se. I mean, that may have been their use or may have been the traditional use, but the improvements themselves, we have these, right-of-ways, I mean, surrounding, a lot around the city, but I think their point is absolutely correct, which we have had in different areas where I don't think you could put a street through there. It was like designated that way, and then, we did a bunch of abandonments of alleyways in the past, and what we traditionally have done is split it down the middle for each property owner to each side of it, is how you guys have done the, equitable distribution of right-of-ways.
Do we know how wide it is there?
It's wide enough for two cars. I mean, it's normal
Like
street
a,
width.
like a street width?
Yes.
I mean, it looks like it's probably a city street width, 60 feet or something.
What about utilities? Are there any utilities on that?
That I'm not sure. Melody, were you able to?
Yes, I believe, Terry, I think confirmed with Guy today, there is no water or sewer in this little section
That section?
here.
Yeah, they're probably going to run along
There's nothing in
the,
here. They all run up here by on Pershing up here.
it looks like where somebody probably just parked their equipment, they platted it and then parked their equipment while they finished the neighborhood or something.
Traditionally.
So Stephanie, what's your preference? What are your wishes?
I keep telling him I just want some gravel. That's all I
But the thing of it is, I can see right now on that gravel part, the city didn't improve it in the first place. So it would have always been dirt. Someone else improved it without acknowledgement to the city. So that wouldn't be something, I guarantee you, there's a lot of streets and easements that don't have anything on it. We have an alleyway in the back, off Main Street that is in desperate need of repairs. But they don't do anything with it either right now.
I guess my question is, when the subdivision was built, how was it
someone did
intended
that
for you,
for
for
their
that
own
person to get in the
personal use.
driveway?
Right.
They took, what they've done is taken the right-of-way or that and improved it, somebody did for themselves for their own use.
Right.
Well, this is
So
actually where.
technically, we could tear all the gravel out of there and
But my
we wouldn't
point
have
is,
anything.
their driveway is not off the city street.
This is
Right.
the garage right here. You pull up the concrete into the end of the house. So you
Right.
have to come up, the gravel will come up.
Looks like
Well,
the oranges and have them.
There's the street that says right there, this is 4th Street. And so, I mean, if you look, if there wasn't a house, they could potentially have connected it, it just never got connected.
It happens a lot when you have different developers putting streets in with different street plans. I mean, we don't, and I think Alderman Clark's absolutely correct that we don't see this a lot because somebody doesn't go in and improve it. And whoever built that house I'm sure said, okay, I can just connect here, and probably is the one that did the
The
improvements.
story is, from what we were told, that the original homeowner of that house was the developer for our subdivision.
Right, and I'm sure that's probably the way it was done, and they knew that it was a dead end, and they probably didn't have to pay taxes for that, or who knows.
I mean, it's really, we don't want to put gravel down when it's not our property and end up getting in trouble for improving property that isn't ours. But at the same time, it's a muddy mess every time it rains. So.
I will, my view on it is, I don't think the city necessarily had a responsibility to put the gravel down. I'm a little bit disturbed that you didn't get response to your request or answers to your request. I don't see how in the future that that lot would serve any purpose for the city other than to invest money into it. So.
I remember looking at this last year and giving an opinion on it, saying, we didn't improve it, we can't, because you don't want to put the improvements and create a presumption of use on the city's behalf. So I don't know how that message, where that was communicated, but honestly, guys, it is probably one that you typically would abandon.
Okay.
Because I don't see a future street use. Terry, do you?
No, and Guy and Brent both went out and looked at it today and saw.
Would we need to communicate with the neighbor to see if they have an interest in the half, or?
You guys have always done 50-50 to each property owner. I mean, that's how you guys have traditionally done it.
Well, let me ask this though, do we want to give them their 50, what if they don't want half of that?
It doesn't do really anything for
Right.
them.
I was gonna say, where is their home on?
It's on around the corner.
Under number 11?
Yeah.
Your
Okay.
practice has always been to go the middle of the street, and that, from when we dealt with the alleyways, whether it was equitable or not, you've always offered it to both owners to the middle of
Have
the
you-
street.
And my only concern with it,
I think you had a conversation with the neighbor next door.
We would have to offer it to both.
Their house, and that's what's kind of weird, their house is so far from that, not that it matters, but it's like, they don't even come to that part of the yard. Back in the corner.
my only concern with splitting it 50-50 is, I don't want to abandon something and turn it over to these people where they've got more to maintain and more to pay taxes on if they don't want it, and
I know,
these
they don't
people
have to
do.
accept it. You can't force them to merge it into their lot. And it would be easier for these, because I'm sure what they would want to do would be, or what the city would require if we did abandon it, if you abandoned it to either one or to both, is you'd require them to then come and do a boundary adjustment to take in and correct the lot as one lot, which would require them to go through the planning and zoning process and pay the application fee to make it one lot, and then, which could be two or could be one, and then that way they could record it and the records would be correct with the recorder of deeds across the street. Because you would not want to leave it as a separate lot, which would then have a presumption of buildable.
It's definitely not big enough to build.
It's definitely not big enough to build out, unless it's a long skinny house.
Yes.
When I spoke to you last year, I remember the main thing you were always worried about was just getting rock. And I couldn't rock it because it was a unmaintained city.
supposed to.
That was where the problem was. We were just letting rock on it. We weren't asking for it to be turned over at that time.
No, no.
And that's kind of what, from what I understand, that's what we're asking for now. is just rock on it.
We would love to have it turned over to us so that we know it's our responsibility, rather than it kind of being in this gray area. Well, is it the city's property or is it our property? Who's supposed to take care of it? And last year, the gravel did come. We got a little bit of gravel, but after that, there wasn't any explanation as to why we only got this little bitty corner. And
The road is
Yeah.
wide.
All right, so we need to vote on this and decide as a board, what do you want to do with this? I mean, do you have enough information to make a decision, or do you want to look at it closer?
There is a process too, and it's been so long, I don't remember it, for abandoning of the easements or right-of-ways, so I'm going to have to brush up. And we haven't done it in, probably 6 or 7 years since we've abandoned one, so I'm going to look at, there's a statute specific to the process to doing it. And you may, by statute, have to offer it to both property owners. I can't remember what is required.
Having heard that, I'll make a motion that our council investigate that, and we'll get back with you.
Okay.
Is there some kind of timeline that we can
I
offer
can have a
her?
report back by next meeting to say, this is where it kind of is.
Okay.
You wrote that down quick.
Very good.
Thank
We
you.
need a motion, do we have to table it?
No, I'll
We'll get back with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience.
Item 14, request to close Main Street on May 28th from Market to Southwest Street for the Memorial Day ceremony from 11 a.m. to 1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Kendall, seconded by Alderman Cornell to approve the request on Main Street on May 28th from Market Street to Southwest Street for the Memorial Day ceremony from 11 to 1. Any comments? Roll call vote.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderman Tallow?
Yes.
Alderman Kendall?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is, I guess we're ready for Mrs. Thorne's report.
My first item I have for you this evening is a request to approve the accounts payable in the amount of $254,458.61.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Flake, approved by Alderman Dreyer to approve the accounts payable. Roll call vote.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderman Tallow?
Yes.
Alderman Kendall?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
And Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
My next item is a report on the Tourism Commission meeting on April 24th. Before them was a request from the Chamber of Commerce for $1,000 in support of the Warren County Wednesdays program that the Chamber is pursuing. The Tourism Commission's recommendation was not only to fund $1,000 toward the vinyl changes on the billboard that the city owns, but also to allow them to utilize those billboards when they are not in use for other city events. And I've since done the research to find out from Jenny that the billboard is available from about December the 7th through February. Those are the months that there's not something already slated for a city special event on the billboard. So not only did they want to provide the funding to provide a vinyl for that, but also use of the city billboard.
Any comments, concerns? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll approve the recommendation of the Tourism Commission for the $1,000 investment into the new vinyl.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Tallow, seconded by Alderman Clark to approve the tourism recommendations. Roll call vote.
Alderman Tallow?
Yes.
Alderman Kendall?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 15C, renewal of office cleaning contract.
In your packet, you had the proposal from Lynn Cotton with Crystalline Cleaning. She has offered to renew our existing cleaning contract at the prices from the previous year. We have bid this out many times in the past and certainly can this year if that's what you'd like us to do. But we found this company to be the most competitive over the past few years and also to provide a quality service to us. So my question to you this evening is, do you desire to renew at current prices with Crystalline Cleaning and accept her offer, or do you choose to go out to bid?
When was the last time that this was out for competitive?
Last year.
This time last year it was bid.
Would be the second year on that bid. We find it very difficult. There are many companies from further east, but much more expensive than what we've been able to do with this company.
Terry, this has been about the same price for several years now, hasn't it?
It's been, the only time that it changed was when we moved from the different buildings
But
all
since
into
we've
this
moved into this, it's
building.
been the same price.
Yes, it's not changed significantly at all since then.
And you all are satisfied with,
They do a good job.
The
I
results?
won't say that they never miss anything, but generally, if either they miss something, Melody will call them and they'll take care of it, or somebody will leave a sticky note, you know, please clean the whatever, and it gets taken care of. So they're fairly responsive when there is a problem.
thank you.
When it was for bid last year, how many companies? I don't recall.
We actually got 4, I believe.
Was it?
3 of those significantly more
Pretty
expensive.
pricey. Yeah.
There just don't seem to be a lot of companies that offer the level of service that we're looking for. It's either a much higher level or, you know, lower level, but that have the staff to do this type. There doesn't seem to be a lot of options out here locally.
From what I have experienced, not only do you have a wide range of prices, you also can work your way through quite a few of the vendors looking for the quality. That being said, I hate to renew contracts without bidding it out and see what it's been 12 months. I always like to see what the going rate is at that point.
Any other comments or concerns? I think I'm hearing Alderman Cornell saying you want it to go out for bid?
I would prefer to see bids, but I'm only one chair, so.
I understand.
As I recall in the past, we went through several before we landed this company, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Just a comment.
Went through several quality of work.
Yes.
And I understand that. And I don't have a problem with waiting that, but again, that's just my 2 cents.
You're entitled to it.
Thank you.
Didn't change.
But that's all, 2 cents. But I have to agree with you. I think it's good to always get bids, but I think from past history, because of the problem we had with finding a good vendor to do that, and they have held their prices, I'm going to go with the recommendation of renewing this company.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Alderman Tallow, seconded by Alderman Kendall, to approve the bid on Crystalline Cleaning Company in the amount of $27,830. Roll call vote.
Alderman Kendall?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
No.
Alderman Tallow?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-1.
And next I have for you a request to renew the contract for the videographer, Mr. Marino, back in the corner. We did search very long and hard to find someone who was willing to do this, and honestly have not found anyone else who could provide us with the service that we've received from Mr. Marino now for many years. I can't, John, do you know how many years? 6. I thought it was quite a few, but we have not been able to find anyone else who could come in and maintain our equipment and provide us the level of service that we've looked for. So Mr. Marino's offer is to renew at the same rates as the previous year.
This will take a lot of thought and discussion.
Really want to push this one out.
Without having any fear of him being able to make me look any worse, my only comment is the same last time, that I always like to advertise for bid, but I understand that he does a good job for the city, and certainly accept that opinion.
I'll make a motion that we renew the contract for videographer John Marino for another year.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alderman Flake, seconded by Alderman Dreyer to renew the Marino Video Productions contract for another year. Roll call vote.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Reluctantly.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
No.
Alderman Tallow?
Oh, me, yes.
Alderman Kendall?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-1.
Are you listening to us back there?
Everybody's trying to be comedian.
The next item I have for you is actually something from the Grounds and Maintenance Department, and it is a request for approval to start one of the capital projects in the Grounds and Maintenance Department. This is the tennis court resurfacing. Brad provided a project estimate listing what all of the components are. Budgeted amount for this project is $13,000, and his projected total cost is $12,128.30.
Is this all our tennis courts at both locations?
Yes.
That's exciting.
Or
They're
just
ready
for
to
the
get
guys who
started too,
play
pretty
out there?
soon, so.
For the people who play out there, I mean, traditionally on those tennis courts, after a few years, balls will hit those cracks and they'll skip real bad and stuff, so if they can get something where
John,
it's
we're
more playable.
amateurs.
Well, I played a little bit, not much.
It's nice to have the capabilities for them to do the work themselves.
That's right.
Yes, it is.
I'll approve the $12,128.30 for the resurfacing of the tennis courts.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Alderman Tallow, seconded by Alderman Cornell to approve the projected estimate on the tennis court resurface in the amount of $12,128.30. Could I have a roll call vote on that?
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderman Tallow?
Yes.
Alderman Kendall?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
And next I have for you a request for the spring and summer overlay and patching projects for the Public Works Department. This is budgeted at $79,500. And you do have a list of the streets that were approved for both patching and overlay in the budget. So the request is to approve this capital project.
I make a motion to approve the capital project of road repair for $79,500.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Clark, seconded by Alderman Kendall to approve the spring and summer overlay patching projects in the amount of $79,500. We have a roll call vote on there, Melody.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderman Tallow?
Yes.
Alderman Kendall?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
And last, but certainly not least, request for approval of the Hickory Lick Overlay Capital Project in the amount of $10,000. I had someone ask today if this was going to fix the problem, and the answer is absolutely not. It's going to make the problem better. But the last time that we looked at this to actually fix the street, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 to really fix it on a permanent fix, and we simply don't have the funds. But this will absolutely make it better so that people accessing the athletic complex will not have to fall in the holes out there on that street on their way.
I may know the person who asked you that question today.
I wasn't going to reveal that.
You know, my only concern is, not only is that street dangerous, it just doesn't speak well for our city. And so many people travel it, so many people from out of town travel it. Has that project actually been engineered before? The cost estimate, the $500,000, I mean, is that something that we actually looked into doing this, or is it somebody's best guess estimate?
It was an estimate by local engineers, not with paying for engineering, but saying a street that has to be completely torn out and rebuilt at the time, and that's been a few years ago. And the number of feet of the street, that was kind of their rough estimate, yes, including the engineering costs. But we have never actually paid for the engineering to have the project engineered.
Might be a silly question, but have we ever looked into, or may there ever be a grant
We're
to
looking.
use towards
We are
that, since it
looking, we
goes to
actually
the
did-
athletic complex?
We are looking, and we did look into one, and we applied for one and did not receive it. We applied for an RR grant for that road.
So it's off the table.
No, we are still looking.
Oh, I'm
but-
sorry, I
But we have looked
misunderstood
for
you.
one,
Oh,
we
good.
did apply, but we did not receive the grant.
Is our right-of-way easement there wide enough that we could ever do anything without having to purchase more property? Is anybody-
I believe so, Mayor. I don't remember exactly the width, but I believe that it was adequate. To actually improve the road, and curb and gutter is what we actually talked about at the time.
Most of the right-of-ways out here are going to be plenty wide to do the work. It's the slope license, the work license to get around. It's like actually the temporary use. I mean, I would imagine we probably have a 60-foot easement. You'd be surprised. We've got good size easements and haven't had an issue on those.
Good. Any other discussion on the Hickory Lick overlay and patching project?
Make a motion, we approve the $10,000 toward the asphalt overlay of Hickory Lick to the complex, sports complex.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Tallow, seconded by Alderman Flake to approve the Hickory Lick overlay and patching project in the amount of $10,000. Roll call vote.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderman Tallow?
Yes.
Alderman Kindle? Yes. Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
I got one other question, sorry, Mayor. Does he have a time frame
For
doing this?
Hickory Lick?
all of these projects for the Public Works Department are intended to be
Oh, I'm sorry, I
completed
didn't see that, but I apologize.
by the end of June.
I saw it on the other one, okay, thank you.
Very small font.
Yeah, blind.
Would you like us to enlarge that font for you, Alderman Tallow?
Maybe you have to do something with these. I'm
Item
sorry.
16, Greg Hottishell, Chief of Police.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. I actually don't have an agenda item tonight, but did want to make everyone aware and extend an invitation to the Board and the Mayor. Our Warren County leg of the Law Enforcement Torch Run will be May 22nd. It's a Tuesday morning around 10 o'clock. It will start from Forestell, and we expect to arrive here at City Hall sometime between 12:15 and 12:30. So that will go along the service roads, go past the schools, both in Forestell and Wright City, come back over to the South Service Road, go through Truesdale and through the schools in Warrenton, and then down Main Street to City Hall. It's sort of an incredible event because we do get a great many of the Special Olympians from Warren County involved with the run. And I was certainly surprised 2 years ago when we did this for the first time at how many Special Olympians we have in Warren County. So it's really about increasing awareness in the community about the special effort that those Special Olympians go through, and the fact that of how much they get from being a Special Olympian. So if you can make it, that would be great, and please pass it on to everybody else. It's a great event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you still have, is this the project where you, or fundraising project where you sell T-shirts and stuff?
Correct, yeah, and we'll have T-shirts out there that day as well.
Okay.
For
a few years worth.
Actually, as an aside, we're working on another potential fundraiser for that, and actually have been in communication with Mr. Baker to do a Cop on Top event, which basically we put one of our officers up on top of one of the fast lanes and take donations for people to help get him down off of the top of the building. We were looking at a time frame sometime later in June, and hopefully we can make that happen. But
So you take donations?
Right.
To keep him up there?
No.
I was like, you put me up there, and you're gonna raise some money to keep me up there.
I was actually very excited with Mr. Baker's response. He really embraced the Special Olympics and the whole torch run effort, and was even talking about doing some sort of a special retail event that day as well to help with the fundraising effort. So hopefully we'll make that happen.
Okay.
Pretty excited.
Thank you, Chief.
You bet.
Number item 17, Michelle Slinther, Economic Development Director.
Good evening, and you have my economic development update in the packet. I would also like to inform the board, Aldi's had a great ribbon cutting, and thank everyone for attending that was able to attend. We had a new number of board members and department heads, and we were given a tour by Robert Jeffries, Director of Operations, and he took us through the store and explained the color scheme and changes to the store versus other stores, and how they have heard a lot of good feedback from the community and individuals about them being here. And I went back up in the afternoon to kind of see if they had a number about how many people had showed up at the store. And when I was there at 3:30, they had a count of 1,741 individuals had gone through the store that day. And they were estimating at the rate that they were going by 4 o'clock that they would have almost 2,000 people who went through the store.
Good turnout.
So we had a very good turnout for Aldi's, and tomorrow is their official grand opening.
I heard we had good representation from the city, too.
Yes, we did.
I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, everybody, for attending.
And you didn't want to be 2 minutes late. It was already over with.
Way back there somewhere. We seen your head back there somewhere. It was a good.
I got there about the time it was supposed to start, and it was already too late.
Item 18, Recreation Director Jenny Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. We have a great day planned for May 12th. I would like to request road closure for 2 separate locations in order to host the events that day. For the Auto Fest, I'd like to close the roads from Cool Street, to close Cool Street from Walton to Vauxhall, and close Walton Street from Highway 47 to Cool Street. That would be from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m., since the Auto Fest actually takes place from noon to 4. Later that day, we're going to have a rod run on Main Street. So I would like to request to close Main Street from Troy Road to Morgan Street, and Main Street to the alley on Thurman Street. That would be from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. because the rod run is from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
6 p.m. to 9 p.m.?
That's correct.
It says 5 to 10, so.
Is that what it's supposed to be, 6?
6 to 9?
It's got 5 to 10 here.
That's what mine said.
The roads would be
For
closed.
setup and.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it is 5 to 10.
It is 5 to
Okay.
10. You'll just be there from 6 to
6,
9.
Okay.
Gotcha.
The event takes place
Okay.
from 6 to 9.
Okay.
All right, my mistake.
Is that the same as last year?
On the Auto Fest, it's slightly different. On the Auto Fest, we actually had the Auto Fest registrants arrive at 8 a.m., but what we found was that there's not a lot of event activity taking place at that time. So what we're doing is allowing those cars to park that early, but the events actually kick off at noon. That helped us to kind of reduce the costs in some areas and identify the strengths of the event and focus on those. As far as the Rod Run, that's a new event for the city of Warrenton. So it's from 6 to 9, which is the typical time frame for the Rod Run when it's held in other areas.
Okay.
Great.
So the Main Street wasn't closed last year?
That's correct. We did not have an Auto Fest activity that took place, or Auto Fest related activity that took place on Main Street last year.
Have we talked to some of the merchants up and down Main Street on how they're going to feel about it?
We did send out a letter to let them know about it, and let them know that they're welcome to, run specials or take part in the busy aspects of that day. I haven't been to those businesses personally just yet, but I did have the letter sent out as an informational piece, but I have not received any complaints.
And how long has those letters been out?
I'd have to go back and check, but I'd have to say it's at least 3 weeks.
Oh, plenty of time.
Possibly 4.
If they had a concern, they could have called.
I think so, and I have talked to some of these business owners about Catch the Glow, and while there, I didn't receive any complaints.
Okay.
we need to entertain a motion to authorize closing the street.
I'll make a motion that we close Cool Street from Walton to Balshall and close Walton Street from Highway 47 to Cool Street on May 12th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the Auto Fest.
Second? You want to do them both separate? Or together?
I don't know, can we do them together?
Can I include them in my
Sure,
motion?
why
And
not?
also request to
Okay.
close Main Street from Troy Road to Morgan Street and Main Street to Alley on Thurman Street from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. for the Rod Run.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Kendall, seconded by Alderman Tallow, to close Cool Street from Walton to Vashel and close Walton Street from Highway 47 to Cool Street on May 12th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the Auto Fest. Request to close Main Street from Troy Road to Morgan Street and Main Street to Alley on Thurman Street from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. for the Rod Run. We have all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Jenny, you have anything else?
No, sir, that's all. Thank you, Mayor.
We're doing bills and ordinance authorization.
Call for the first reading of Bill number 16-12.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Kendall, seconded by Clark for the first reading of Bill 1612.
An ordinance authorizing the rezoning of the property located at 812 Veterans Memorial Parkway for R2 medium-density, single-family residential to C3 highway commercial and amending the zoning district map thereon.
Call for second and final reading and passage of bill number 16-12.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Flake, seconded by Alderman Dreyer for second and final reading of, for the first or final second reading of bill number 16-12.
An ordinance authorizing the rezoning of the property located at 812 Veterans Memorial Parkway from R2 medium-density, single-family residential to C3 highway commercial and amending the zoning district map thereon.
We need a roll call vote on that, please.
Alderman Tallow?
Yes.
Alderman Kendall?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Bill number 1712.
Call for the first reading of bill number 17-12.
Second.
First reading for bill number 17-12. Motion by Alderman Tallow, second by Alderman Kendall.
An ordinance amending Section 405, Appendix A of the Municipal Code of the City of Warrenton, Missouri.
Call for second and final reading and passage of bill number 17-12.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Flake, seconded by Alderman Dreyer for second and final reading of bill number 17-12.
An ordinance amending Section 405, Appendix A of the Municipal Code of the City of Warrenton, Missouri.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Kendall?
Yes.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderman Tallow?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Bill number 1812.
Call for the first reading of Bill number 18-12.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Kendall, seconded by Alderman Clark for the first reading of bill number 1812.
An ordinance amending Section 410.080 of the Municipal Code of the City of Warrenton, Missouri related to streetlight construction.
Call for second and final reading and passage of bill number 18-12.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Flake, seconded by Alderman Dreyer for second and final reading of bill number 18-12.
An ordinance amending Section 410.080 of the Municipal Code of the City of Warrenton, Missouri related to streetlight construction.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Clark?
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Flake?
Yes.
Alderman Cornell?
Yes.
Alderman Tallow?
Yes.
Alderman Kendall?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. We have no executive session to discuss, so I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Callow, second by Alderman Cornell to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed likewise. We're adjourned.